What I learned from Ghalib Kamal Live number 500, Objective Morality, Slavery, and Human Flourishing. Among all the discussions in Ghalib Kamal's 500th live stream, the one that stood out to me was not the discussion about Islam, Muhammad, Palestine, or science. It was a discussion about morality itself. Because before we can decide whether slavery is wrong, whether genocide is wrong, or whether religious teachings are moral, we first have to answer a deeper question. What makes anything right or wrong in the first place? Before discussing the debate, I think it's important to define the key terms clearly. Objective morality means that some moral claims are true regardless of what individuals, societies, cultures, or religions happen to believe. Subjective morality means that moral claims ultimately depend on opinions, preferences, feelings, cultures, or minds. For example, if slavery would still be wrong if every human approved of it, then slavery is objectively wrong. If slavery becomes right whenever enough people approve of it, then morality is subjective. Without defining these terms clearly, people often end up talking past each other. As I understand it, Ghalib rejected the simple objective versus subjective framework. He argued that many people try to force morality into rigid categories and ignore the complexity of real-world situations. He used examples such as euthanasia, suffering animals, terminal illness, and mercy killing to show that moral questions are often context-dependent. His strongest point was that morality cannot be reduced to simplistic slogans and that difficult cases require judgment rather than memorized answers. I think this is a fair criticism. Real moral life contains gray areas. Not every moral question has an obvious answer. The caller argued that atheists can still condemn slavery objectively through principles related to harm and suffering. The central concern was simple. If morality is entirely subjective, then on what basis can we say that slavery was wrong in the 7th century, or that genocide is wrong even if an entire society supports it? The caller was searching for a universal moral standard that would allow us to criticize harmful practices, regardless of culture, religion, or historical era. After reflecting on the discussion, I think Ghalib was correct about several things. First, many moral questions contain genuine uncertainty. Second, people often create false dichotomies. Third, difficult edge cases such as euthanasia deserve careful analysis and cannot always be solved through simplistic rules. I also agree that many people repeat moral theories without fully thinking through their implications. However, I think Ghalib's rejection of objective morality goes too far. The existence of gray areas does not mean that there are no objective moral truths. Medicine contains gray areas. Science contains gray areas. Law contains gray areas. Yet we do not conclude that medicine, science, or law are entirely subjective. Likewise, uncertainty about difficult moral questions does not automatically imply that morality itself is subjective. The fact that euthanasia is complicated does not mean slavery is morally neutral. The discussion forced me to think more carefully about my own beliefs. I realized that I cannot consistently accept moral subjectivism. If every human being on earth sincerely believed slavery was good tomorrow, I would still think slavery was wrong. That means I do not believe morality is created by human opinion alone. I also believe that if conscious artificial intelligences existed and could suffer, flourish, think, and feel, they would deserve moral rights as well. This suggests that morality is not grounded in being human. Instead, it appears to be grounded in conscious experience. One question I struggled with was the relationship between rights and suffering. My current answer is this. Rights matter because they protect the conditions necessary for flourishing. Freedom matters, autonomy matters, bodily integrity matters. The ability to make choices about one's own life matters. When rights are violated, suffering often follows immediately. Even when it does not, the person's ability to flourish in the future is damaged. That is why rights are morally important. For me, slavery remains the clearest test case. Slavery removes autonomy. Slavery removes freedom. Slavery treats a person as a tool for someone else's benefit. Even if an entire society accepted slavery, these facts would remain true. Therefore, I believe slavery was wrong before people recognized it was wrong. Societies can be mistaken. Cultures can be mistaken. Religions can be mistaken. Human beings can be mistaken. Moral truth does not change simply because public opinion changes. I walked away from this discussion agreeing with Ghalib that morality is more complex than rigid rules and simple slogans. However, I also walked away believing that some moral truths are objective. My current view is that morality is grounded in the flourishing, suffering, rights, and autonomy of conscious beings. The application of morality may sometimes be uncertain, but that does not mean morality itself is merely a matter of opinion. Some moral questions are gray, but the existence of gray areas does not change the fact that conscious beings can objectively flourish or suffer, and that is why practices such as slavery remain objectively wrong, regardless of culture, religion, or popular opinion.